So, yeah, macroeconomic concerns. We have a short run and long run concern. Long run. In the short run, we are interested in inflation and unemployment. Yeah? And we have inflation in the booming period, unemployment in the recession period. Yeah? And in the long run, we are concerned about growth. So like this, let's use iPad app. We have suppose this is a time or year, and this is maybe Y. They put Y as like an output or like an income or a GDP or something like this. So one country's like a GDP, let's say that. In the short run, we have a booming recession like this. But in the long run, we have something like this. So that's the macroeconomics. In the short run, we have a booming period and also recession period. In the booming period, it's kind of heating. So economies is getting warm and warm and warm. And we have more and more money supply. We have more and more money supply. It's like a blood in our body. So circulating a lot. Then we have a so-called inflation. This inflation is like expanding of this economy in terms of the money size. So we have inflation here. And if it's too hot, then government would like to cool down by shrinking those money supply, by raising interest rates or having more tax or whatever things. And if it starts to cool down, then this economy will have a recession. Yeah? So recession is natural things. If it's too hot, then it's not good. So it's a natural. So in the recession, we have like unemployment, more and more unemployment, something like this. Yeah. So unemployment is like somewhere here. So inflation and unemployment, that's kind of a trade-off. It's different aspects. So that's a typical kind of thinking of some people. But since 1970s, that kind of thing was not not well observed in the real world. That's one reason that Keynesian economics is not working in the real world. And so this is like a short-term fluctuation, and this is like a cycles. We have cycles, right? Sometimes booming and recession, booming, recession. If the recession is too long, that's a problem, but recession itself is not a problem. Maybe it's too deep, then we call it a depression, right? So depression and Great Depression, something like this. And so people say that we are living in the world of a recession, right? It's a global recession or like domestically the recession. Like newspaper, like this is like a worst job market ever in history of every year. I read that sign since I was a student. Like worst every year. It's the worst because it's getting worse actually. So in the mid 1990s, so like I went to university in 1996, and so people who graduated from before then, they had a choice of going they have a multiple job offers of many places. So the Korean economy was booming since 1970s, 60s, 70s, 80s until 1997. It's like it's rapidly booming, and it's not a problem of getting a job in large companies. And since 1997 crisis, we see the world of recession, and then the recession getting worse and worse, and like get worse in history, something like this. In South Korea, I think that's unavoidable thing. So South Korea, this country finished a rapid booming period. So this country is growing. So after going through all these kind of fluctuations, they have a growth overall, so long-term growth. But this long-term growth is like a slow down like this. Yeah? So it was like this in the 1960s, 70s, 80s. And since then, these days, it's like this. And if it's like completely flat, then this economy does not grow anymore. Then GDP's growth rate is 0. And it's just a stop. We say it's a steady state using this Solo's like a growth model. each country will reach the steady state in certain point of time. The country cannot grow forever. So South Korea already started to slow down their economy. So it's almost impossible to go back to those kind of 1960s, 70s period. The reason that South Korea made a rapid economic development was based on kind of like a large manufacturing firms, like using very cheap labors and produce a lot of things. That's the typical things. But that kind of thing is not working anymore. Our wage is so expensive compared with those periods. And we focus more on those kind of service sectors. And manufacturing firms will move to like some other countries. And China is booming rapidly. So if we think of this booming from this 1960s, 70s perspective, then we're going to have a recession forever in history. But we have to think, different ways. So even though we are living in the sort of recession, but we have a small amount of like a fluctuation and something like this. And so that's like macroeconomics. Short-term fluctuation. We say this is like this is business cycle. So this is a cycle, business cycle, like this kind of fluctuation, the short-term fluctuation and long-term growth. That is the concern of macroeconomics. So if we study macroeconomics, then quite a large portion of this textbook is about economic growth, starting from Solo's growth model and blah blah. It's so important, and that's also related to my research as well. And I do more like economic development. And some people say like, what is different from development? Difference between development and growth. It looks same, right? Development is about growth, and growth is about development. And I think that development, growth is one part of development. So growth refers to some GDP growth, economic size growing like 7%, 8%. That's the growth. We say that's growth. And development discuss more inclusive things, like not only economic growth, but also like some kind of I don't know. So more like some larger concept than the growth. And anyway, that's the different things, and that's the. How can I go back to? Yeah. So there are three markets in macroeconomics. And goods market and labor market and money market is all important. And so Wallace law, this is very important law in microeconomics in general equilibrium. It's very important, but I'm not going to explain that. If there are like an n market, and if n minus 1 market clears means we have an equilibrium, demand is equal to supply, then the last market automatically clears. So even though we have 3 markets, if 2 markets clears, if you look at only 2 markets, then the other market will automatically clears. So even though we have 3 markets, it is sufficient to discuss only 2 markets. So we are going to analyze those goods and service markets, but we'll just call it goods market for simple reason. And money market, 2 markets. And from there, we will derive so-called aggregate demand curve and aggregate supply curve, and we'll discuss some policy things. That is how we can further extend to international macro. So let's start from this goods market or goods and service markets. And so this is from chapter 16, 17, 18. So 16, 17 is about the goods market. And so we are first discuss this national income account. It's very boring actually. Income account, a balance of payments. So usually they wrote in the textbook, usually this goods market will come first. If you look at this macroeconomics textbook, they first discuss a goods market and then money market. And that goods market, income account, because that's so boring, they chose not to use that in the first time, in the first place. instead they like an exchange rate or money that sounds more interesting. So they put that part in the beginning. So this unusual like a structure, like a chapter, like a, this money market first and goods market later on. The reason, I mean, they showed it in the first part of this textbook. It's about the GDP or whatever things. And let's look at this. So we have a domestic, some national expenditure, like a consumption, investment, and government spending. The CIG, that's a commonly used concept in macroeconomics. If we have, the country spend money. Some people, like some private, so we all consume something, we spend money in the market, that's consumption. And some firms will spend money by investing something, so investment. And government will also spend money, that's government spending. So private, household, and firm and government will all spend money. And that's the gross national expenditure domestically. And that will develop into GDP if we include what? Include this trade balance, export minus import. I'm going to explain that very soon. If we include a little bit more, then it becomes a GNI. Basically, almost same, almost same. Like that. It's from the textbook. It's chapter 6, 1, 2, 3. But it's all like some kind of underlying things. The GDP is CIG, which is like an expenditure from household, firm, and government. CIG plus the trade balance, export minus import. Yeah? So GDP is a little bit larger than GNE, and GNI is GDP plus something. So a little bit larger than GDP. Okay? So we see that it looks so complicated, but it's not that complicated. Right? From GNE, we have a GDP, and then GNI. And we can forget about from here. Nobody uses GNDI or whatever things. We add more. From GNI, we add a little bit more, then it becomes something. So when we say like a Y, so there's like a large concept, a GNDI, but those things are so small, so we can ignore those things. Okay? So same thing. Starting from GNE, if we add export and import, that becomes a GDP. And if we add like a value of export factor or something, then it becomes a GNI, then it becomes a GNDI. So we can simply focus on this GDP. These days, the GNI is also used a lot. But those things are quite trivial, so GNI is almost same as a GDP. And we have an account. Current account is a trade balance, and this, and again, those parts are very very small. So when you say current account, almost all about this current account is trade balance. So actually, it's interchangeably used. Some people say current account, some people say trade balance, which is export minus import. Yeah? So kind of things. So GDP and GNI was very similar in the past, but for some reason it's getting a little bit larger. That's why some people these days use more about the GNI. For example, in the World Bank, they started to release data on GNI, so gross national income, which is a little bit different from like a GDP per capita. Yeah, and so that's the account. And about this GNE, gross national expenditure. Some people, some household consume, some firm invest, and government purchase something. CIG. So C is the largest portion, like maybe around 60 to 70%, like that. And as you say here, like this is U.S. current account, the CA current account, and the component, like a trade balance, is dominantly high. Yeah? So that's why when we mean by current account, some people just mean by like a trade balance without looking at those NUT or NFIA. And again, so this is, can skip, like that. So Y is equal to C plus I plus G plus CA. And CA includes many things, actually. Yeah? Trade balance and some NUT, NFDI, something like this. But because this, which is trade balance, is almost all about the current account, we can interchangeably use from there to here. So when we, from now on, we can just think about only this. Even though that's not 100% true, otherwise we have to add so many things. Yeah? So plus, it. So we don't want that, so let's just focus on this. And if you don't have this one, that's the closed economy. And if you have this one, that's the open economy. That's the only difference. So in macroeconomics, we start from here, and then we just add here. And let's look at each one. C, what is I, what is G, and something like this. So consumption is like this. Consumption has a consumption functions. And if that's not really intuitive, then maybe think about only like this. If you have an income, the income increases as proportion to your consumption will increase with your income. Your income consumption, like this. So that's all about this graph. This point is A, and slope is B. These are called consumption functions. If you have more and more income, you want to consume more and more. Right? And suppose, B, that is the called MPC, the marginal propensity to consume. It's just a name, it's not that important. If this is like a 0.75, what does that mean? If you have an income of $100, then you will spend 75%. Yeah? Then you are the person who spend if you have $100, then you will buy, you will spend money in consumption for $75. For $25, maybe you will save or you will do something else. Right? So this B is your propensity to consume. Yeah? Your percentage of consumption. And we have a so-called a multiplier effect. This is also an important thing, but I'm not going to emphasize a lot. If MPC is this person spends 75% of the money, then the multiplier effect for this economy is 4. That means like this. That's B, and 1 over 1 minus B. That's the multiplier effect. So if it's like a 0.75, then 1 over 1 minus this is a 0.25, which is 4. That means you receive $100 from your company. So this is one company, and they have a lot of people working for that company, and each person receives $100. And they spend $75 in some market, buying something, something like this. And each person has all different kind of consumptions. And this person also spends some of the money, like this. So if this is all like a 0.75, if this country's MPC is a 0.75, then if the starting point is 100, then overall keep going on and on and on, then we have $400. So it's a 4. 4 is like a thing. If original Y is like 100, then eventually as a multiplier effect, this economy will end up having like a 400 in that country. So money is being circulated. So, if it's like a simple, like a small company, it's not really affecting a lot. But if you think about maybe Samsung, which accounts for 17% of South Korea's entire GDP, that's the more than 10 largest Japanese electronic city companies. So that's kind of too much. So one company produces maybe 17% of one country's total. That's I think it's a little bit too much. But anyway, starting from one company, we have many multiplier effects, and this is how we calculate this. And just for the effects, but I'm not going to emphasize this a lot. Yeah, like that. And when we say this, like a C is A plus BY. This is what I wrote. When we say Y, they just meant by Y minus T. So this Y actually means Y minus T. So T is tax. So you cannot spend your tax. You have to pay tax. Whenever I receive a wage from the university, and tax is automatically deducted. I cannot touch it. So when we actually mean by income, that is actually Y minus T, which is called disposable income. Yeah? Your net salary, net something. So that's why they write this Y minus T. This actually means your income, net income, disposable income. The slope of this function is marginal propensity to consume MPC. Yeah? So we have this kind of a slope. Yeah? We have to remember this slope. So that determines the slope of your GDP. And we have I. We have a C and I and G. So we discussed the C. I mean, it takes a lot of time to discuss what that consumption function means, but maybe that's just a brief overview. Investment is an investment. Investment is something that one company invests, but that when we mean by investment, that is actually planned investment, planned one. So even though this country's this year's income is like 1 million something, that investment plan is made beforehand. So this I function, investment, is not affected by Y. So consumption function was the so Y, C. So C looks like this. Increasing function of you have more income, you buy more. But I function, this is just like this. We can think that you have more income, you want to invest more, but here they mean by planned investment that is made beforehand, so this is actually flat. But this one is a very important relationship with interest rate in investment like this. So this is a very important graph when we want to bridge two markets between goods market and money market. This graph is very important. I mean, it's quite obvious. Like if a firm, if you want to invest something, if you don't have the money, you have to borrow it from the bank. Or if the interest rate is too high, it's your cost of borrowing money is high. So people do not want to invest more. But if it's very cheap to borrow money, if the interest rate is so low, then people would have to invest more. Because we have a negative relationship between investment and interest rates. Like this. And this is like this. Their notation for interest rate is I, but it doesn't really matter. We have a negative relationship between investment and interest rate. And this is from figure 8.2. So I collect, in fact, this is, I collected all these different slides from different chapters. So some graphs are from chapter 18, some graphs are from 16, 18. So between like 12 and 18, I just mixed up all these things. Government spending, government collects tax and spend G, right? So sometimes spending is exactly the same as collecting. Then that is said as a balanced budget. Like if a tax is more than spending, then it's a surplus, right? If a spending is more than tax, that is a deficit, right? G is something that is planned ahead. So government spending is not just like a random thing. Government all planned much before like this year's spending is already planned last year or some years before. So it also looks like this. It's not affected by G and not affected by Y. So what we want to do is to draw the combination of C plus I plus G. So if we want to draw these three graphs into one, then how does it look like? Only C is like this. And other things, such as a flat line. Then if you want to combine this, want to draw only one, then how does it look like? It just looks like this, but with a parallel shift of this and this. I mean, if it's like some 5 or 10, I don't know, then draw this, but increase by 5 and 10. So basically same shape. The same shape like this. So this is a graph of C plus I plus G. Yeah? So that is the important part. And yeah, so this is how we are going to draw this graph. Let's think about this Y as a supply. The GDP is the output that is supplied from outside, and demand is something that we want to spend. We sometimes spend X and C, I and G, and sometimes like export and import. And by doing, we can draw this kind of a graph. This is there. C, this is a C, consumption function, investment, and government spending, and plus we can also see like a plus export minus import like this. It's a kind of not very major things. So C plus I plus G. That is the equation for this economy. And if we are in here at point 2, so we say this output level exceed the supply. So if we think this is a supply and this is our demand, we want to spend like some money because this is demand, consumption, investment, and government, and this is a supply. Then our demand is more than supply, so we want to have more and more Y, so we want to move on to 1. If we are in the 3, then we want to go back to 1. So 1 is the point of equilibrium. If we are deviating from equilibrium, eventually we will come back to that equilibrium part. So, so that process is not that important, but this graph, that is like a equilibrium result in the goods market. So we are in the goods market. So I'm going from each part of C, I, and G. So this is like an overall result, and like a shift up. Shift up means if it shifts up, then output Y will increase. So that's important. If government spend more and more money, then eventually their output will increase. So government would like to spend more money as long as it has some money. That will increase their country's GDP. Government would like to cut the tax, then GDP will increase, and people will feel happier. They feel like economy is like is booming, and they have more and more jobs. So maybe in all the presidential campaign, I mean, people would like to say then, we'll cut the tax for some amount. Some people like that because if the tax cuts, then we have more and more like booming and more jobs. So eventually, it's good for economy. But if we have more and more like reduce the tax, then government doesn't have money right anymore. So eventually, that's not a good solution. But temporarily, we can say that. And yeah, like this. So if our purpose is to increase our income level, then we can use that kind of policies, increasing G, with government spending, like reducing tax or increasing means investment, like consumption. That all increase in our outcome like this. So. Goods market. After we discuss this goods market, then we have some like we can derive so-called IS curve in Keynesian economics. And so after goods market, we derive IS curve. And after we discuss money market, we discuss LM curve. And then maybe some other parts, we discussed a so-called foreign exchange market. So connecting all together ISLN FX model, we can discuss this effect of a macroeconomic policies. And so that's about this textbook approach. And so we can derive the same result in a much simpler way. So far we very quickly overviewed all these goods market. CIG and C plus I plus G all together, and this graph and something. And let's move on to money market. So if you look at money market, then we can discuss this policies. Okay? So money, we all know what money is, right? And this money is basically for exchange. Some people will keep it, but they keep it to exchange somewhere in the future. So money itself is just it's a no value, right? So depending on this definition of the money, like M1, M2, M3, but it's not important at all. But it's a currency in circulation, narrow money, broad money. Most likely we use M1 in macroeconomics, but anyway, it's not important topics. And yeah. So this kind of thing is I want to skip. Like in the textbook, there are so many pages that express what is M1, what is M2, like this. And the exchange rate, what is the spot exchange rate, the forward exchange rate. That is not that may be important, but from this whole point of view, this is a specific topic. So this is something I want to skip. Yeah? I want to give you some messages. So supply of money and demand of money. So let's calculate the level of M1. So we have a supply and demand of money. So money is some demand and supply. Like this, demand of money is the function of this. Like a Y. Think about Y. If this country, it's a lot of the booming economy. So you have more and more income. If you feel richer, if you become rich, then you have so much money in your wallet, and you want to spend more and more money, right? So you have a more demand. So I want to have a more money. So that's the demand for money. If this country has inflation, so if P goes up, P means not just the price of one individual good, it's the price level of whole country. And if P goes up, that means that this country has inflation. And price level is increasing. This was maybe $1 today. It becomes $5, $10 maybe in the future. So we want to carry more and more money to buy something. So our demand for money will increase. So this in the world of hyperinflation. I mean, there's some joke, not really joke, but in a mart you chose something. It was $10, but when you put it in the cart and go to cashier, it becomes $15, something like this. In 1 minute, the price goes up a lot. So anyways, if price level goes up, that the demand for money will go up. Yeah? So that's going to be important. So if we divide by P, so if we divide everything by P, that becomes a real. So this is what we discussed in the past. Like a real what? Your real wage, your real rental rate, we always divide by P. But we're going to focus on just this, not really this one. That's the money demand. Yeah, like that. I mean, don't pay attention too much about this real part. I mean, money demand is like this. Interest rate is another important factors. If interest rate is high, then you do not want to hold money in your pocket. You want to save it in the bank, right? If interest rate is too low, then your demand for carrying money, the demand for money is higher. So interest rate and money demand is opposite. Okay? If you have more and more money and have more interest rate, less and less demand for having money. Yeah? When I was in Japan, the interest rate was 0 actually. So it doesn't make any sense to save money in the bank. Yeah? It's just inconvenient. Because sometimes if you don't have money, then I need to go to a bank. And my university was so rural, so the ATM machine was too far away. So I actually carry the money in the desk. So my demand for money was quite high. So I want to have more and more money because it's very inconvenient to go to the bank. Yeah? And if there's some higher interest rate, then probably I could have less and less demand for money, and I could save it in the bank. So like that. And so that's the relationship between interest rate and money demand. And if like increase the real, if y increases, then this will shift up. So that's the function of only interest rate. So if other factors is increasing, then this money demand curve will shift up. So don't forget that if y increases, then money demand will shift up. If the price level goes up, then money demand will shift up. So that kind of thing is very frequently used in policy part. Like it's worthwhile to review this. If y increases, then if y increases, then money demand will increase, and price level increases, then you want to have more and more money. So remember this one. That's the money demand. And money supply. Supply is not something that we can determine. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. So I feel pressure of this time limit. So that's the money supply is from outside. So we cannot determine money supply, right? It's determined by central bank, and some like a governor or some people determine that. So the money supply is actually given. And money demand is something that we can control. So usually this is a kind of a graph of money supply and money demand. Then we have like a demand and supply. Then that's the, like a balance, the quantity of money. And that's the price of money. So what is the price of money? So money itself is like a price. But price of money sounds kind of a contradictory. Right? But money itself is no value. Like I brought some foreign currency. Did I have some US dollars and this Thai baht. I mean, the US dollar is more commonly used in the world. But that itself, I mean, sometimes if you want to buy some goods in the streets, you want to eat like a tteokbokki or something, if you pay this, then this is kind of useless, right? I mean, this maybe even more. If you want to buy something that, I mean, it's very, I mean, we can exchange it in the bank, but I mean, that itself is a no value. It's just like a paper, just paper, right? And it has a value only when it is exchanged, and so when we can measure this the price of money in terms of the interest rate. What is your price of money if we want to lend this money to somebody else? We can receive something. If I give this to you and please pay this back to me maybe in 10 days with some interest rate of something, and that interest rate is the price of money. If I gave this if I gave like this is $10 to you and you give me $10 back, that's not the price. It's just like the same thing. Then $10 plus some price. That is the price of money. So that's why interest rate is frequently used as a price of money. And yeah, so we have a supply and demand. Yeah? And yeah, so this is like a process. If money supply increases, if a central bank decides to increase the supply of money, then interest rate will go down, or something like this. If have more and more money in the market, so the price will go down. It's exactly the same thing as a supply and demand. If there are a lot of goods in the market, the price of that goods will go down. Likewise, if there is so much money in the market, it's too much circulated, then the value of that money will go down like this. I mean, and increase in money demand. The money supply is same, but increase in money demand, like for example, if Y increases or P increases. So if money demand will increase, then actually interest rates will go up. So in macroeconomics, it's kind of a relationship. If Y goes up, then money demand will go up. Eventually, interest rate go up. So this kind of like a flow chart. This and this and this. So that is actually important things. And so that's the money market. So very quickly, we kind of finished money market. And so we discussed both goods market and money market, and we can combine both goods market and money market in one thing and analyze the effect of macroeconomic policies. So fiscal policies, monetary policies, and we're going to derive an aggregate demand and aggregate supply curve. And how can we? So let's discuss a little bit about these policies, and I think we have to stop today. Like that.